Welcome back to Northwest Visual News. I'm Kevin Hunter with Chris Bornstead and Kyle Torgerson on this beautiful Friday. It's April 27th today. And let's kick things off with some weather before we get into our show topics here today, Kyle.
Well, right now the weather is 54 degrees today. It's going to be a high of 56, low 46, but sadly it is going to be raining. And it's going to be raining all the way until next Tuesday. But after that, it looks like it'll be sunny.
Sunny Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday next week. Now, explain the difference between rain on the forecast and just showers on the forecast.
Showers are not so heavy. They're more occasional. They're just little spurts, while rain is just continuous, and it's just the stuff that we don't quite like.
Yeah, that's correct. Anyhow, so that's your weather forecast. Coming up on the show today, we're going to be talking about healthy fats with Jody Summers, and we're going to have a little conversation about the peace deal that is in the process of being signed in the Koreas here afterwards as well. So let's start with Jody. Bring Jody up on the screen there. Thanks for joining us again, Jody. We're looking forward to having some conversation about fats.
Well, thanks for having me, and it's good to see you.
Now, share with people, because you've joined us here several times on the broadcast, share with people a little bit of your background, and then let's get into the topic.
Absolutely. I have degrees in dietetics and food science, and food science is how the food actually interacts with the body. And I have that's in my bachelor's. My master's is in healthcare, but mostly I really work. I'm certified nutritional therapy practitioner, and that is really how food changes health. And that certification, actually, I learned more from that on how to help people than I did in all the years I went to college. And so, yeah, so I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner.
What do you think that is? When you mentioned you learned more in one aspect as opposed to going to college, why do you think that was?
I love it's no bad about college at all. I learned a ton, but what I really learned was a lot of biology, physiology, chemistry, which actually I'm going to use today to describe how fat how we utilize fat in the body. But I learned a lot of sciences, and what I learned as a nutritional therapy practitioner is how to apply that knowledge to change people's health. And in school, you learn all the structure, and as in that certification, and now as I work with clients, I learn how to apply that in their life to make changes, which is completely different.
Well, let's talk about healthy fats. So I just want to give our viewers a heads up over the next few presentations, and Jody will not be with us next week because she's out busy doing whatever. But the following week we'll also cover healthy carbs, good quality carbs and low quality carbs, and then also proteins as well. So today we're going to talk about fats. And where would you like to start, Jody?
I think we hear all the talk about, increasing fats and, the difference between the higher fat and the low fat diet. And there's a couple of things that I want to talk about, but probably if people could only do one single thing to change their fat intake, it would be focus on quality. Quality is everything in carbohydrates, in proteins, and in fats. And so when we talk about a high quality fat, what we're looking at, well, there's different types of fats, but what we're looking at is from, if you're going to eat a saturated fat, make sure it's from an animal that is, if it's a beef fat, it is pastured. Grass fed. If it is like from chicken, it's pastured. If it's from eggs, it's pastured. So a high quality, humanely raised animal has a better quality fat than the industrial, high, what's the CAFO, the industrial farming. So you want to find the local farmer for the saturated fats. And for high quality fats, as far as vegetable oils, you want the organic, first pressed, fresh as can be, because fats rancidify very quickly, and rancid fats are actually what makes them so dangerous to our bodies. So you want fresh pressed, first pressed, olive oil. In fact, one of the things that I do for my local cancer clients is I actually work with an olive oil company not far from me, where I know what their oils there are less than, you know, are only that season. They only carry the fresh oils, because if you're looking at low quality fats, they rancidify quickly, and that actually increases inflammation, which then leads to a host of other problems, from autoimmune cancer, you know, just sore joints, all sorts of things are as a result of inflammation. Also, when you're dealing with a low quality fat, such as a vegetable oil in a bottle, in the plastic bottle, in fact, again, you know, I say that there's just one thing, but if there's a second thing we could do is take out all vegetable oils in plastic bottles. They're hydrogenated, partially hydrogenated, as we know them, called trans fats. And they actually cause free radical damage, they cause inflammation, they cause heart disease. Um, you know, I can go on and on about the low fat diet and how that was misrepresented from the very, very first study that was based. But what we know now is that what's really damaging to our heart and to all the other things that happen due to inflammation is the trans fats actually cause free radicals and oxidation and oxidative stress in our bodies. So anything that says hydrogenated, partially hydrogenated, or trans fat, so anything in a plastic bottle, canola oil, vegetable oil, soybean, corn oil, all of those, anything in the plastic bottle is a no-go. Those are highly inflammatory. And if you choose a saturated fat from an animal product, make sure it's organic, because all the pesticides actually congregate and get concentrated in the fat of that animal. So if you're going to choose, if you can only afford, let's say, honestly, if you can only afford organic produce, organic fats, choose the organic fats first, because there's a higher concentration of those pesticides in the animal products for where the fat is located than even in the fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. What's interesting is one of the a local business owner who owns a coffee shop even was talking about the importance of using organic coffee bean, and he said that if you drink 1 cup of coffee a day and you're not using a organic coffee bean, that you're drinking 8 ounces of pesticides every year, and it was pretty crazy.
Again, it is, and again, it's because of the concentration of the coffee bean.
Yeah. Chris, you said now you're ruining coffee for me. Yeah. So no, really, really important on the quality of the fats. I mean, such a big deal. When you mention about pastured and farm raised animals, we have my wife calls them the gang of 8 chickens in our backyard, and there's a really big difference between the eggs they lay and how golden the yolks are compared to even the organic pasture eggs that you can buy from the store. So that's a better quality egg than just the common one out of the refrigerated section. So if you go from that one that's in the refrigerated, it comes out, it's like a really bright yolk if you boil it, as an example. And then the one that we get that's organic and in the carton from the store, but it says it was pasture raised or free range chickens, it'll say on it, organic. And you can tell there's a difference in the color, but the yolks that we get from the birds who are in our backyard, it's like just pure gold compared to the bright yellow yolks, that you get from the grocery store.
And the deeper the color the yolk, the more nutrient dense that egg is. So, you can just put them side by side and look. And did you know, I love this little, so did you know that there is an enzyme in the yolk that helps you process the protein in the white? So all those years that we were told only eat the egg whites because it's good in protein but low in fat. Well, if you can't process the protein that's in the white, what good does it do you to even eat it at all? So yeah, the yolk is actually the more nutrient dense part, and if you're dealing with children, which I know we've talked about several times, the yolk is less, some people do have egg allergies, and the yolk has far less egg allergies than the white. So the yolk is, just a nutrient dense food for all of us, really, unless you have allergies.
Eating the entire egg is now important versus not eating just parts of the egg, because egg whites were supposed to be, this is supposed to be good for you, just eat the egg whites, throw the yolk away. And so so it's important to eat all of the egg then.
Absolutely.
Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yep, the whole thing. Eat it all.
If you're watching, don't feel guilty for eating the whole egg. Go for it.
Yeah.
Better for you.
Eat the whole egg every single time. Yes. You know what's funny about that, because when you mentioned about the conversations around egg whites, well, when it was so commonly known, although untrue, but commonly known that people should avoid fats or minimize fats, and I believe you can still buy them. I just haven't noticed them in such plentiful supply. But you could go to any grocery store, any health food store, or whatever, and just buy a whole carton of just nothing but egg whites. And I knew a lot of my friends who were weightlifters and body trainers, and worked with people at the gyms and stuff like that, and they were using these egg whites all the time.
Okay, all right. So since we're talking about eggs, what is the best way to eat your eggs? Just where you get the most out of it.
Yeah, do you have a recommendation for the best way to prepare them?
I actually do. For the healthiest way that you can prepare an egg is it's one of two ways. If you want to scramble, make sure that the yolk is still a little bit runny, which I know a lot of people don't like. So in other words, you can just do like a over easy or sunny side up in real organic butter, because again, butter is a nutrient dense fat. And then if you keep the yolk a little bit runny, it's actually better absorbed. You can better absorb the nutrients in the yolk. So if you're going to, hard-boiled egg is fine, but it's better if it's a soft cooked egg with just a little bit of runny yolk, which I know some people, have a little problem with, but the lighter cooked, the better.
My wife has been doing, also adding, when you mentioned about hard-boiled egg, if we boil the eggs, we don't hard-boil them. She'll actually bring the water to a boil on the cooktop and then turn the heat to simmer, so it's just, so it's not boiling. And then she puts the eggs in there and sets a timer so that she can, because we figured this out, I don't remember what it comes out to, it's either 8 minutes or 9 minutes or whatever, but it gives you essentially a soft boiled egg. And the egg is not hard inside the shell.
And you're going to absorb more nutrients from that than the harder. So yes, that would be my recommendation.
And she started doing it mainly because she was researching and learned that the softer the egg was, the easier it was digested.
Yep.
Nobody likes a dry egg. I mean, especially at Easter time.
Well, some people do. You hear people talking about, they want food cooked so long and so hard, that you can use it like a baseball bat or whatever. I mean, there are some people who say that, even when they talk about their meats, they want them burnt so they're like a brick. And tough to digest.
Again, and not getting into all of the chemistry, but it actually can even denature some of the protein. The higher you cook it, just like when you pasture milk. And homogenize, it actually breaks down some of the protein and makes it a little harder to digest. And that's why some people can do better on raw milk than they do on pasteurized milk. And obviously you want to make sure you're getting your raw milk from a legitimate farmer. But again, again, without going into all the chemistry, although you'd be so proud of me. Can I show you the chemistry chart that I made? Yeah. Okay. I was so excited. Like I haven't used, we talked about the schooling. I haven't used chemistry in years, but I thought I'd make a little chart. All right, let's see. Can you see that?
Yep, we actually have that on the screen right next to you right now. It says fat stability and inflammation on the top.
Okay, the top one here, the first one is saturated fats. The second one is mono unsaturated, and the bottom one is polyunsaturated. So yeah, the reason I wanted to show this is that saturated is more stable and polyunsaturated. Mono means one, poly means many. So if there's 1 point of unsaturation, it's less stable. And if there's many points of unsaturation, it's far less stable. Now, going to the chemistry, if you look at these double bonds, so if you look at the mono or the poly double bonds there, I think there's one in the middle and then there's a couple here. Double bonds means less stable. So the more, it's kind of backwards. You always think double bond, like double strength. It's not like that. It's actually the opposite. So the more double bonds, the more polyunsaturated, more unsaturated, the less stable it is in your body, the more free radicals it produces, the more oxidative stress it produces, the more inflammation it produces. So not that you shouldn't have some of those fats, but in our general standard American diet, we have way too many of the inflammatory fats and not nearly enough of the anti-inflammatory fats. And so when we talk about healthy fats, since it's the topic of the day, you want to make sure that you're getting a high quality, stable fat. So again, that oil in a bottle, if there's anything, especially if you have children, anytime you're going to see hydrogenated, partially hydrogenated, or trans fats on the bottle or in any processed food product. So if you turn the label over and there's the word hydrogenated anywhere on that listing, it just should go right back on the grocery store shelf, not even come into the home. My son has some health issues that we found out about 10 years ago before I learned a lot of this. And one of the first things I did when I found this out, literally I took a trash bag and I went through every single item. And if it said hydrogenated, it went out with the trash. And there's been very few products that I brought in, even in the last 10 or 12 years, that has hydrogenated oil in it. And it's made a big difference in his health. And it's one of the things that is everywhere, but very, very inflammatory. So
some of the fats you have listed under saturated includes animal fats, butter. What's the next one? Is it ghee?
Ghee, yeah. So ghee is actually a clarified butter. So it's processed, it's heated up, and then it's just the fat taken out. So people who have allergies to, what's the word I'm looking for? Like milk intolerances, there's no milk protein in ghee. The actual protein is taken out and only the fat is left.
Oh, very nice. And then you got tropical oils listed there as well. Give some examples of tropical oils.
The popular one of today is everywhere is coconut oil. And again, yeah, so
everything. And the unrefined organic coconut oil you're talking about as well.
Absolutely. And again, remember, fat holds toxins, so you want to make sure that it is always organic.
Mm-hmm. Now, on the next list down, we have your mono unsaturated. You have olive oil, avocado. Avocado is like one of the really favorites in our household. I probably have at least an avocado a day, sometimes more, depending upon what, Stephanie makes smoothies all the time that include fats, and so she uses avocado in the smoothies as well. So sometimes it ends up being multiples, but my little girls even love eating. They'll take she'll take a whole avocado, slice it in half, pull the seed out, carve the interior out for the girls, and then they sprinkle a little vegetable seasoning on it. Forget what it's called, but they really, really like it, and they'll eat a half of avocado themselves.
I should dig up, there would be a recipe that would be really good for your kids. I will get it out, the actual recipe, but it's like in a blender or whatever, food processor. It's a banana, an avocado, almond butter, and cocoa, like an organic cocoa powder, like a cacao powder, and then vanilla, what's the word I'm looking for again? Seasoning, not seasoning, but the liquid. Extract. So just those 5 things, and it's almost like a chocolate pudding, but the fat content is from an avocado, and you cannot taste that avocado at all. It tastes like a chocolate banana pudding. It's still
love to have
really
that
delicious.
recipe. That sounds awesome.
I will find that for you.
So one thing I wanted to mention, because we became aware of this when you mentioned about bringing like really high quality fats into your diet and into your home. I became aware of the fact that the other thing that you have to be aware of, particularly for people who like to cook a lot, is that good fats are also sensitive to high temperatures, and at a given period of time, you can ruin a good fat with too much heat. And I forget the exact period of time that it takes, but we purposefully avoid temperatures over 350 degrees. In fact, most of the recipe that we have published on YouTube as an example for slow baked chicken, the fats that we use in that are actually baked at 275 degrees in that recipe. And it's to protect the fat from the heat. I'm curious what your thoughts are there.
You said it better than I could say it. It really, the lower your food, again, you know, it goes back to the denaturing of different proteins and the, you know, causing the free radicals. And so, yeah, the lower the heat, the better. There are different, we don't have time to go into all the details, but there are different fats at different smoke points. But you should never, you know, never use a high quality flaxseed oil for, you know, high cooking. I mean, that's just, it just doesn't work. Or it's not good for you. It would work, but it's not good for you at all. So yes, the lower the temperature, the better.
Let's go. You have another page here, Jody, on healthy sources of fat, and this breaks down the omega-3s, omega-6, omega-9s. Let's talk about that a little bit.
So
on the screen for our viewers to check out too.
Perfect. So omega-3s are, okay, let me back up. So there are some fats that are essential and some are non-essential. Non-essential means your body makes it on its own. For example, one of them, and I promise I'll get to that, but one of them would be cholesterol. Cholesterol is so important that our body actually makes and manufactures it through the liver. And we've been led to believe that cholesterol is bad, but it's so important. In fact, maybe we could spend 1 minute at the end about the importance of cholesterol for the brain. So there's some fats that are non-essential, which means your body, you don't need to eat it because your body, it's so important that your body manufactures it. There are other fats that are called essential fats. They're essential fatty acids. I'm sure many people have heard of that and may not understand that the reason they're called essential fatty acids is because our bodies do not make it themselves. It's just like our body doesn't make its own water. It is an essential nutrient. But there's 2 essential fatty acids. Again, ALA and linoleic acid, and then alpha linoleic acid. That's getting too detailed. But what we want to do is, our body doesn't make omega-3. So omega-3 is the anti-inflammatory type of fat, and omega-6 is inflammatory. And in our culture in general, we get way too much omega-6. Now, we need some omega-6. So I'm not saying you can, you couldn't cut it out altogether because it's in so many things, but we don't need if I can recall, and I didn't look this up before our call, but if I remember right, I want to say we get like 20 times more omega-6 than we need, and like 10 times less than the omega-3s that we need for that balance. So,
and you have noted, the sources that have these oils. Think of pistachio nuts, sesame seeds, sunflower seeds. These are all things that are actually hanging right next to the cash register at any store you go to, convenience store or wherever. They're in abundant supply everywhere around you.
They absolutely. And the thing about fish is we don't eat fish like we used to. I mean, I grew up, my dad would, and I've gotten back to that now, and my kids actually are getting back to it as well. My dad would sometimes, my mom would buy sardines and put it on salads and stuff. But we don't do that anymore. Oh, that's so gross. Those are so good in those essential fatty acids. Salmon oil, fish oil, sardines are really an inexpensive way to get good protein and healthy fats. A lot of those we just need to make sure we're eating more of those omega-3s and then decreasing the omega-6s.
Jody, a great testament, and he's probably listening to the show today. My uncle Reno Leto lives in Oregon, And when we were kids, fish has always been a very staple component of his diet. And when we were kids, sometimes when he'd be either smoking fish or preparing fish or whatever, you know how it doesn't always have the best aroma. And we would think, how can you eat that stuff? It's gross, or it's this or that. But Reno is 96 years old, still living and very healthy today.
And I think this is a perfect lead-in for what I really also would like to share a little bit about cholesterol. I'm thrilled for him, and he was completely wise, and I wish more people were like that. Is the cholesterol. We've been told for 2 or 3 decades how dangerous cholesterol is because it builds up in the arteries. Well, the question is why. The question should be, why is it building up in the arteries? Not like, oh, that's so bad. But why is it building up? Well, it builds up because, and again, this might be a really interesting topic down the road about heart disease, but the arteries twist and turn, and they can get inflamed because of a pro-inflammatory diet. So the arteries get inflamed and they get damaged. And so cholesterol is actually like the Band-Aid that goes in and helps patch up those areas in the heart that get thinned out so they don't burst open and somebody dies of an aneurysm. And so the cholesterol builds up. So the problem isn't the cholesterol buildup. The problem is the inflammation that the cholesterol was there to fix in the first place. And so we've been led to believe that the problem is the cholesterol. And so we need to reduce it from our diet and take drugs to reduce it. But cholesterol is so important that the body knows it needs to be made. The liver makes it if you don't eat enough. There are parts of our brain that are 85% cholesterol. Now, not the whole brain, because there's, lots of things up there, but there are areas of the brain that are so rich in cholesterol. And think about this for a minute, and I'm not a doctor, and I'm not, but just common sense would tell you that if the brain needs cholesterol for all of those synapses and all of those things to keep it healthy, and if over the years we've eaten a low cholesterol diet and taken drugs to decrease our cholesterol, there's less cholesterol in the brain, this healthy fat. Well, what's happening to this generation who's been raised on this? That's my generation, and we're just now coming into this epidemic of dementia and Alzheimer's. Well, the brain needs healthy fats. Our myelin sheath needs healthy fats. The sex hormones. I mean, for guys, if that's not enough to get you to eat healthy fats, I don't know what is. So hormones are dependent upon healthy fats, and hormones determine our sex drive. There are so many things that we've been misled by this low fat, high carbohydrate diet.
From get you to say ever-changing science as teaching us.
So
you're dead on the money with that, Jody. And it's oversimplification, but when you're talking about these highly inflammatory type diets, if people want to go, well, what is that? They tend to be diets that are very high in carbohydrates, processed sugars, and that sort of thing. So I mean, it's the area in which most people are making mistakes. And when you talk about the epidemic with Alzheimer's, et cetera, that's going on in this country, there's a elderly gentleman that lives in the same neighborhood as I am in and has come over and visit with me a few times. He's really concerned because he's noticing onset of Alzheimer's, and I can agree with him that he has it because he'll sometimes mention the same things to me literally a minute or two after he said them. Say them to me again like he'd never said them before. And so just a couple of things. He invited me to his house one day, and he showed me just a couple of things that he does as a general routine. Wakes up in the morning, has like 2-3 cups of coffee, and almost an entire tray of cookies. And then later in the day, he was showing me this whole box of these honey nut, these little oatmeal bar things that he buys, by the case. And again, that's part of his, and he says, look on there, it says healthy, low-fat food. And I was just like, they totally abused that word healthy. It's not healthy at all. But So yeah, if people are wondering, just like I said, it's an oversimplification, but if your diet is high in carbohydrates and processed sugars, you probably got an inflammatory diet.
And again, there's 1,000 other things that contribute to dementia and Alzheimer's. It's not just fat, but I can tell you the fat is important for the brain and healthy hormones and cancer protection and, mitochondria health is, again, a whole nother topic. Healthy mitochondria is so important, and the healthy fats, the good anti-inflammatory fats really help with that.
Well, Jody, as always, we appreciate you joining us here on Northwest Digital News. I hope our viewers learned a little something new about fat and good healthy sources of fat. I wish you well this next coming week, and we'll talk to you in 2 weeks about good quality carbohydrates. How about that?
That sounds fabulous. Actually, and where I will be next week is I'm doing a workshop on foundational health. So unfortunately, I won't be able to join you, but I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.
Okay, take care. Thanks, Jody.
So wait a minute, you're saying that all carbs aren't evil?
There are
carbs. You're going to make me wait until next 2 weeks to find out?
That's right. There's high quality carbs and there's low quality carbs, and you'll learn what some of the differences are.
Kevin, I have to tell you, there's been some pretty amazing things that have happened this morning.
So,
and
share.
Kyle is going to share that right now. We're going to hopefully share a video if we can.
Oh, we can.
We can.
Now, does this tie into our other topic for today? The peace deal?
It does tie into our topic. We are about to watch something that nobody has seen since the Korean War. Whatever Kyle gets.
Prior to the Korean War.
Yeah, prior to the Korean War.
Here it is.
And here it is. You're going to watch both these leaders take a step into each other's country. Wish I could hear what they were saying, but maybe the customer. You just kind of like, come on over.
Mm-hmm.
A while back, we did another video about the area where they were meeting at.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Talking about how they just kind of stare at each other through the windows on their, each side. So to see them actually step over, each president step over into the other's country, and not get taken is amazing.
What's interesting is if you rewind the clock back a couple of months. You remember all the rhetoric that was coming out of mainstream media about all the terrible things that were going to happen in the Koreas, and in big part because they believed that our president was handling all of this in a very irresponsible way.
This is just terrible. This is just the worst news in the world. And those people, they guess they were all right?
He's being sarcastic. This is actually great, fabulous news, and something that few people in our mainstream media could or would have predicted. So yeah, it's fantastic news.
In fact, I do believe that majority of the mainstream media predicted nuclear war because of what Trump was doing.
Yes, and in fact, there were commentators on the news. You can go back through and find the links. If people don't believe us, we'll be glad to do the research for you and share with you some of these links of broadcasters on the major networks saying that we are standing on the brink of a nuclear war.
Yeah. I mean, look, and everybody, all the Trump supporters out there, is give it time. Let him work his magic, let him work the art of the deal, and this is what we get. Thank you, Donald Trump. Thank you, Kim Jong, and I'm not sure what the other guy's name is. We don't hear too much about him.
It's Moon. Kim and Moon.
Kim and Moon. So.
Yes.
But I mean,
unrelated to Steve Moon.
Right.
Yes,
which is
that's a different
guy
Moon.
Here in Longview.
Another good guy in Longview. Yes.
This is incredible stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would have not thought that I would have ever have seen this, ever.
Yeah, exactly. When you think back to the Korean War, do you remember what year? How good is your guys' history here? When did the Korean War happen?
I'm going to say what, late 50s, early 60s.
You're getting close.
It was can't remember the exact dates, but I think it was around that time.
Yeah, 1950 to 1953.
See, I was close.
Yeah, June 25, 1950 to July 27, 1953. Know a lot of people that were involved in that conflict. Many of the great veterans that live in our community today were part of the Korean War.
I had several family members that were, I think I've told you the story before, my uncle was over there, and that's where he brought his wife back.
Well,
let me read this right here. I feel that this is I believe this is from Kim. I feel that we are part of one family, and both countries will have a new policy of cooperation. After years of disputes, we are here today to say that nothing will make us different again.
You know,
that's fantastic.
My question is when you see something like this, how do I mean, because they used to be one country, right? It used to be one country. So now you've got North Korea and South Korea, and they're coming together. And, you know, if I was a dictator of another country, I would be concerned about maybe possibly losing some of my power from this. I'm sure that was probably a concern of Kim Jong. But, I mean, both countries will be able to keep independent of themselves. They are just agreeing to work with each other. I mean, what kind of things do we expect to see, do you think?
Oh, I think a ton of things are going to happen as a result of this. And you know what's interesting is in my lifetime there have been two historic things like this that have happened, because you remember the Berlin Wall coming down?
I do. I remember.
Yeah. That was in big part due to the work that Ronald Reagan and his people that he had over there. But the wall was constructed August 13th, 1961, and officially came down. Its destruction date was November 9th, 1989. And so you had your north and south going on there, as well as Korea now. And so we're seeing that happen. And this kind of stuff only happens under leadership that has very solid resolve. It takes a great deal of tough posturing to make this kind of stuff happen. And what we don't know is how miserable things had to get in North Korea before this summit finally happens. But what we do know from a little bit that we've shared in previous broadcasts about even the standard of living in Korea is that 99% of the country lives on the equivalent of $10 a month. That little 1% population, the Danju was called, are people who are known as the elite crust, but they are people who just live like an average American. We have so many people in this country, we have no idea how good we really have it.
Oh, I understand.
This I tell you what, you know, they showed this Danju, the 1%ers running around, and these people lived in a home. Crazy, huh? And they had a cell phone. Weird, huh? Yeah. And they had their own clothes and more than one set of clothes.
Did they have more than one TV?
They probably had more than one TV. Although the channels they got to see were just a limited number of channels. It was all state-run kind of stuff. Yeah. But yeah, so even the lifestyle of that upper crust 1%, everybody in the country had to be absolutely suffering.
I wonder how a person in North Korea right now, and so people in North and South Korea, I wonder what they're feeling, what they're acting like. I have no way of finding out because I don't have any friends over there.
I think the bottom line is it's going to take a really long time for them to trust this. Think about...
Well, it hasn't completely happened yet. They've just said that it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But, I mean, everything is moving that direction. I mean, suspending the nuclear program. I mean, they're doing everything that's being asked from them, and it's just... It's crazy because I thought that Kim Jong would have been... I honestly thought he was going to be defiant all the way until his end. And to see him doing what his dad couldn't do is kind of refreshing. I'm glad that people took enough time to give him a break, to give him a chance, give him a shot. Don't let me down, man.
Share that photo that you just had up there, Kyle. The empty streets of North Korea.
So I watched a documentary, and I believe they took the New York Philharmonic. That band went to North Korea to play there, and it was just like a big moment. I forgot long ago it was, but the streets were just barren. There's no cars, I believe, because they're not importing or exporting or doing anything with oil or gas or anything, because they shut themselves off from the world. So probably having a peace treaty and actually stepping out, they're probably either in a very big bind because this picture, I don't know how old it is, but I know that documentary I watched was a while ago, so I don't know what else they're running out of. So they're probably either in a corner and they really need help, or they're just they're tired of it too and they're like, hey, let's be friends. But I'm pretty sure it might be the first one.
And seeing photos in South Korea versus North Korea, South Korea is in many times better shape than is North Korea. For people who love it when government runs absolutely everything, that's what they had in North Korea. Government ran absolutely everything. And there was not equal opportunity, there was equal result. We're hearing conversation among people in our communities pushing the idea of equal result. Well, in North Korea, 99% of those people have an equal result. That's close to 100% for people who are unaware. That's 1% away from being 100% equal result, and everybody lives in poverty.
So when you type in the streets of North Korea, these are the pictures that pop up. They're pretty barren, as you can see.
Yep.
When you type in South Korea streets, it is drastically different.
Pretty amazing.
I love it. I'd love to visit somewhere like that. I just.
Yes.
I mean.
Well, there's going to come a time in the not distant future that we'll do some traveling and some broadcasts from around the country here on Northwest Digital News too.
That's not Korea though.
Yeah, we won't be going to Korea, but anyway, it'd be nice to go there. Maybe we have some people we could send to North Korea.
What else is happening?
All right, so let's we got opportunity to cover some of our local event stuff.
Yeah,
let's do that.
I have about 10 minutes left.
Okay, so Chris is going to have to bail here shortly, so let's get this covered. We have the April 28th, which is tomorrow, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., the Skipper's parking lot. There's the R Pirates food drive for the VFW.
No. It's R.
The Pirates, scallywags are meeting over there.
There's a difference.
There's a huge difference.
Yes.
R is like, what was it, Robin Williams?
Kind of sounds like the aliens from Mars Attack.
Mork and Mindy.
Yeah.
R is the Pirates.
Yeah.
So tomorrow,
anyway.
food drive.
Yep, and so there's going to be, so there'll be some live cannon demonstrations out there, so show up for those. If you bring along a donation of food.
If you bring two perishable items to Skipper's, which is gonna, you can drop food at Skipper's or, with the Pirates.
And it's all going to the same cause.
Yeah, it's all going to the same thing. But if you give 2 non-perishable cans of food to Skipper's, you will then get the opportunity to do all-you-can-eat fish and chips for $9.99, which is a pretty good deal.
It's a pretty good deal. All right, and then they're having a raffle, of course, and there are 3 gift cards.
3 gift cards. There's only 2 lifted. I was also informed that the radio station will be bringing in some stuff to give away, and they will also be doing a quick live broadcast from
very nice
there tomorrow morning. That's also going to bring them over some banners and stuff like that. So just so people know, the VFW recently came online and went to the online to appeal to citizens of our area for food. They were almost out of food. So this is something that if you just have a few minutes tomorrow, drop a couple of cans of food by, because it's going to go to where it needs to go. It's going to go to local people, not people that have been brought in out of town or being housed here. This is going to go to our local VFW. So this will go to, the appropriate people. It won't go to busloads of people being dropped off here.
Speaking of food, I happen to know that my lovely wife is preparing a awesome lunch. I'm starting to get hungry.
Yeah.
It's actually my breakfast.
Where I'm going for lunch, and that's why.
You are going to.
We are doing Friday lunch club at the salad bar at Sizzler at 12:30. But tomorrow it's going to be $9.99 Skippers if I can make it over there.
Yeah. All right. So then just a couple other little short pieces here to wrap up today's broadcast. May 5th, which is next Saturday, there is the Artisan Market, which is up on Wool Road. So make sure you get up there. That runs from 9 a.m. in the morning till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Again, that's up on Wool Road. Chris and I were there last fall.
Go early. Go early.
Go early. A lot of people show up.
Trust
and
me.
they sell out early.
Yes.
Yeah, so go early.
You're going to see all these wonderful items up there, and you're going to watch people walk out the door with them, and then you're going to get up there to order yours, and they're going to be like, oh, I just sold the last one. And you're going to be like, no.
that was Chris. That was Chris last fall. And then 2 months down the road, June 22, 23, 24. It's the last full weekend of June every single year is the Rusty Scuppers Pirate Days in Westport, Washington. It's a short little drive from here, so it's not bad.
Oh, there's an event next weekend, too, in Long Beach, right? Isn't there something going on?
Oh, yeah, the parade. Yeah. Sunday.
So,
the Sunday parade is next Sunday.
Right.
On Long Beach.
Right, and our Pirates group, the same ones that are doing this one, will actually be down there, I believe, in the parade and down there too. So these guys are awesome. I mean, they're just doing great things for our community. They're all over the place.
Fantastic. All right, well, that's going to be it here on Northwest Digital News. Chris is hungry. So am I. We have to go eat. Too bad. I'm Kevin Hunter, Chris Bornstead, Kyle Torgerson. Till next time, take care.